Hello everybody, welcome back to another edition of Farming Blind with Duck here on this October 5th, I believe it is today. Luckily we finally got some rain a few weeks ago from the hurricane. No damage in our area, but the blessings go out to those on the East Coast, East Tennessee, North Carolina, but we were blessed with about 4 inches of rain, which we dearly needed here. So with that said, something I've been wanting to do for about a year or two now, but it's been so dry I just couldn't get it done, and I felt like I would be spinning my wheels doing so, is overseeding. Got about 12-acre field right here. This has predominantly always been a pasture field. We've always run our cattle on it, never really cut hay off of it. So this year I wanted to try a little something different. I wanted to overseed with some fescue and some orchard grass, something my dad and I did probably, it's been 10 years ago at least, maybe 12 or longer. So it's long overdue. A lot of things that I do with this field, like I said, just strictly pasture. So all I do is clip it with a bush hog a time or two a year. It is kind of a wet ground, so to speak. We have a lot of crawfish stools. And with that said, when they get dry and you're bush hogging, it's just extremely rough out here every time you hit one. It's like running over a big boulder, so to speak. Cattle run out here for pasture. Of course, the hoof prints indent the ground, and you take over years and years of doing that, the whole field tends to get rough. So I want to try to accomplish a lot of different things by overseeding. For a long time, my granddad, for years and years, would take his old farmall tractor and a little small disc. He'd come out and what we say scratch the ground, slightly work the ground a little bit. Then he would come in and strow the seed broadcast over the ground, then come back in with a disc and a drag and work it in, get some cover. Over the years, as I guess you would say, technology and the equipment has advanced, I started to try to do a little something different. My grandfather passed away in '97, so then it was me and my dad that took over the operation. And I suggested with my dad trying something different, which that took a little convincing because he was somewhat old school as well. So I told my dad, I said, why don't we just strow the seed out, then just take a disc and a drag and go over it and scratch it in right there instead of working the ground one time. And that seemed to work very well. And then as we went along and got to studying on it, our equipment got a little bit bigger and a little more horsepower. I decided to try another way of doing it. What I began doing was actually putting the broadcast spreader on my tractor, hooking the disc up behind the tractor, and a drag behind the disc. With the fescue and orchard grass seeds, they're extremely light, so the throw distance is not very far at all. So my mindset was, okay, if I just slow my RPM down just enough, the seed will throw about the width of my disc. My disc is approximately 9 foot wide, so I thought that would cover it, and then we would either drag right behind it or come back later and do a tire drag or just any other drag to drag it in. As I said earlier, what I typically try to do is I put my broadcast spreader behind my tractor and the disc. That's going to accomplish, in my mind, a lot of different tasks at one time. First off, it's going to cut the ground and give you a little dirt for cover on the seed. We're not cutting it, if you can probably see here on the ground. It's not cutting it very deep at all. We're just more or less, as I said before, scratching the ground. Also, what's that doing? These crawfish stools. It is working them up and busting them up some. So hopefully, this is not only going to cut the ground to give me some cover dirt, it's going to cut my crawfish stools out, and also my cattle tracks. It's going to give me just enough dirt to hopefully fill those in. We've always used either a big tire drag that my grandfather built many moons ago, a box drag, which is built out of treated lumber. I built that about 3 years ago. It's just a flat wooden drag about 12 foot wide. And that's worked very well, especially when you have really worked up ground, if you really want to till it under big time. But I didn't do that this time. But this year, after doing a little bit of research and asking a few questions here and there, I decided to this time, I purchased a new pasture drag from the local co-op. This is the first time I've ever used one. The accomplishment of that is to not only give my seed the cover, it will of course, hopefully fill in the cow ruts. It'll drag out the crawfish stools, plus the cow manure. Every pile that's out here, it'll allow that to drag it out and smear it across the ground and spread out that, because typically where a cow pile is, grass will not grow right there. It kind of kills it because it's so concentrated. So hopefully that's going to spread it out a lot more. Now, some people may ask, okay, well, if you're visually impaired, which I am, how can you see to do what you're doing? Well, by doing it this fashion, which a lot of people don't do it. A lot of people will no-till. They'll use a no-till drill. I personally am not a big fan of it, just for the fact that when you're no-tilling, you're putting your seed just in a row. And for me, I feel like if you'll scatter your seed out across the ground, you'll get more coverage. I'm not a scientist. I don't know how that works as far as the mindset, but that's just the way I've always done it. And I feel like it gives you good results. It may have to take you a few more seed to do it, but hopefully I'm going to be putting about 30 pounds of fescue on per acre and around 15 or 18 pounds of orchard grass. Is that what it should be or recommended? I don't think you can put seed too thick, really. Later on, hopefully in the spring or maybe this fall, I will spray to kill what weeds are out here. But as I was saying, by broadcasting it, I think that's successful as far as that. And then again, going back to my eyesight, just out here across the ground, if I was to take my tractor and throw the seed out there, I cannot see the tracks to know where I'm going. But by working the dirt, and as the drag and everything goes over the existing grass, because the grass is a little tall out here, probably 6 or 7 inches, give or take some, it actually lays the grass over. And with the sun the way it is, it gives me just enough contrast to where I can see my cut marks and where I need to be. And I simply lay right beside that and work it in. And again, with the throw of the seed, doesn't go very far. So that seems to be very effective. And I'll try to give you a shot of how I do that here in just a moment. Okay, as you can see, I'm able to lay down, I'm not sure if you can see down through there of the tracks where the grass is laid over and the dirt. I'm laying right down beside it here. I keep my seed. I find a good speed where to broadcast the seed out. Basically, like I said, I just lay down beside it here. You may tell where I hit a bump. That's a crawfish stool. This, in essence, is going to do everything in one swipe. The way fuel is nowadays, the consumption, this will definitely help keep things a lot more cost effective, I hope anyway. And then if I need to, I can always come back if I have seed left over and do some more seeding as we go. So as you can see, this is kind of how I do things. Being visually impaired like I am, you have to adapt and try to make things happen the best way possible. Is it perfect? No. But I think for the operation, my grandfather, my dad will be proud to know that I'm able to keep things going. And hopefully this field, like I said earlier, I'm actually going to turn it into a hay field where hopefully it will produce and I can help pay for the expenses we put out here. Some people want to know possibly how I know what seed is what if I can't see very well. That's where I come back into play my assistive technology, my smartphone. I have the Seeing AI application, which is a free app. Also the Be My Eyes, which integrates AI, has been, like I said in earlier videos, a real game changer. I only have 2 different types of seeds, which is the Kentucky 31 fescue and the orchard grass. So it's basically a process of eliminations. I simply
tab bar, service direct, ask more, tab, ask more, take picture, but take picture, dim.
I'll let it process.
The image shows a large white bag of lawn and field seed. The bag is labeled Kentucky 31 tall fescue in a green and red design. Tab bar, community.
So there you go. Just that quick. Also the Seeing AI, I've utilized it as well. It works very well. The mixtures, the way I've got it calculated, whether it's precise or not, who cares? It's my field, my grass, so I'm the only one that's got to be happy with it. But I do 1 bag, full bag of fescue versus a half a bag of orchard grass. So that kind of figures out mathematically, should work out just right. So anyway, I just wanted to give you that insight on how I possibly make things. All right, looks like I finally got my seeding project done. Took me about almost 5 hours, because when I first started, I had my seeder set. Unfortunately, with the broadcast seeder, getting your speeds, getting the amount of seed put out, and just so many factors there to get it where you want it. It's hard to do, a lot of trial and error. I did approximately half the field, and I just really felt like that I wasn't putting enough seed down. So I loaded my spreader back up, filled it full of seed, opened it up about 1 more setting, and did the rest of the field. And I felt like I was getting a really, really good coverage on that. It worked out pretty well. Then I went and filled my seeder back up with the last bit of seed I had on my trailer. Went back over, actually I closed it back down a little bit where it wouldn't put hardly as much, and more or less doubled up my speed, or doubled up the seed what I had already done. By doing the way I cut it, whenever I went back and went back over everything, some of the crawfish stools wasn't getting as worked down as much as I wanted to. So I backed off on the angle of the disc where it wasn't, but just barely cutting. Then with the pasture drag again, as you can probably see, I didn't cut very deep at all. It just cuts down, and as you can see here, the pasture drag will actually bust the clods. What clods it does throw up very well. So I was able to get a lot of coverage. Try to see here. And also, if you may be able to see here, this clod's got grass in it. So the disc, like I said earlier, it does a lot of things. It works the ground up for seed coverage. It works out my cattle ruts. It works down the crawfish stools. But also by working it, it cuts the root system of the grass that's already here, which doesn't necessarily kill it, but it'll allow it to stool out and actually itself get thicker. That was always a rule of thumb back in the day. Is that correct? Not sure, but that was always kind of how we looked at it. I don't think you get things like that with a no-till drill. Again, that's sort of old school. I'm just going to be excited by next spring when this grass goes to really hopping to just see what it does produce. Because I said before, this has never been a hay field. It's always been pasture. So when the fall fertilizing time gets here for my hay fields, my plan is this 10 or 12 acres that I've got, I'm going to double the fertilizer in it, because it's really never had anything on it other than just what cow manure drops when the cattle are pasturing. So I hope to really make it produce and get it doing what I feel like it can do and get some good results. So anyway, as I said, this is some old school farming, I guess some people might say, and who knows what's going to happen. Is it a perfect? Did I get everything covered like it is or like it should be? Not sure, but being visually impaired like I am, sometimes it's just hard to gauge everything perfectly. But I think by looking over the field, everything looks to be pretty smooth and got it worked down. Of course, if we ever finally get some good fall rains in wintertime, what little clods is left out here, they should mellow out and really flatten out good. And I won't run any livestock on this field until it is dry, or don't even run it at all until I cut hay in the spring. So that ought to wrap it up for this edition of Farming Blind with Duck, overseeding my hay fields or pasture fields. And we're looking forward to show you the results this spring whenever everything comes up. You guys have a great day.